Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd. Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're thrilled to death that you're listening to our show.
Woo-hoo.
It's so great of you to be listening.
Thank you.
And even if you weren't, we'd still be doing this.
Yes.
So it makes it that much better.
I'm talking to you.
Knowing that you are. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a really great show ahead of us. We have a very special guest online calling all the way from somewhere else. Italian Tony, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, what's up? It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And what are you responsible for in regards to Guitar World?
Yeah, so I have a company called Superlunar. We recently, like this past summer, released a kind of like a distortion fuzz pedal.
Yes, and we've gotten quite a lot of acclaim headed your way for that. People seem to really love it, even if they haven't experienced it, because it's a heck of a great design. So we're going to talk all about the new Superlunar SR1. And he's going to tell us all about it.
SR01.
Yes, dash.
01.
SR-01.
Perfect.
Thank you. We've had some great conversations beforehand, and from what we can tell, Italian Tony is really a solid character.
I like that name, Italian Tony.
Yeah.
And I'm Tony Baloney.
Yes. So, yeah, by saying Italian Tony, it implies that there's a not Italian Tony. Because I just don't want to call you Polish Tony every day, because then I'll just get a bunch of heat from like, why are you singling me out because he's Polish? He can't help it.
I can't help it. I was born that way.
Anyways. Okay, so we have... can you just tell people maybe they're joining for the first time on the 399th episode?
399. Holy moly.
Yeah.
We like to talk about gear. Specifically, we like to talk about boutique gear. And that's things like pedals, and guitars, and amps, and books. And we have people that are movers and shakers in the industry. We occasionally do a 101 episode where we do a deep dive into a specific brand. And we just... we like to get the story behind the story from the people that are making this stuff. And that's what we do, Todd, in case you were wondering.
That is a very good guess.
Synopsis.
Synopsis, yes. So, that's correct. And we're going to kick this off by just going over a couple of quick announcements. I did want to share one of our... Oh, wait, before we do that.
Yes.
So people can check it out.
Yeah.
Italian Tony, where can we go to check out what you do?
You can go to superlunar.com, and it's spelled without the E and the A. So SUPRLUNR.com.
Right. And you've got a great Instagram presence as well. So go check them out there and see the stuff that is there. It's also worth mentioning, if you go to superlunar.com, you're going to see other things besides the pedal, correct?
Yeah, we have, we've created some like Ableton effects racks. We have some apparel, like an icon set, sound effects library, some books, some prints. So it's almost kind of like a design destination.
Yeah, and we're going to get into why that is a thing when we do the interview portion of it. So just clam up, okay?
Are you telling the guests to clam up? Oh, my.
Put it on the back burner.
Italian Tony, I would leave if I were you.
Don't leave, please. Okay, so let's get in here. Now, one of our dear listeners, Steve Keys.
Steve.
He sent me a couple photos, and I was like, what? So he had a little bit of a story to back this up. He said, hey-oh, I want to ask the question. What drives us as gear fanatics to often share our new purchases? Is it vanity? What are your thoughts? I've pondered this for a while now, and what's keeping me from sharing what's new in my guitar world with the general public, i.e. in the socials. For a long time now, I've been in search of a Les Paul that closely resembles one that matches the model that first sparked my interest into the world of electric guitar. This particular one was what I have been believed to be a sunburst 70s Gibson Les Paul that belonged to my long-past grandpa. Both he and my mom are largely responsible for my introduction to music and overall obsession with all things guitar-related. I've been trying to inquire on the whereabouts of his old guitar currently, where it is currently located, but I'm afraid those efforts would be in vain. Nevertheless, it would be stinking cool to find it. Anyhow, I'm turning 40 in a few months, and jokingly I shared a things to buy me for my 40th post with my family, which included a 2011 Les Paul Traditional in a desert burst finish. My mom convinced me to go and check it out, which she lives in Florida, so I guess that must have been very convincing. But the guitar was actually located at Thunder Road Guitars in Portland. Steve lives up there. As he said, I'm so glad that I did. Once I saw it on the wall, those memories hit me straight on. After sharing this with her, she told me to bring it up to the cashier and proceeded to gift me an early birthday present.
Wow.
He says an expletive right after that.
Holy.
Yes. I'm over the wall stoked, and I have only shared this with you so far, largely because I feel that you would appreciate it. That means a lot, man, Steve Keys. That really does. Thank you. I hope I'm not letting the cat too far out of the bag at this point. Let's see. One additional note.
Well, the millions of our listeners know now, too.
Well, it's actually billions.
Oh, billions.
Yes. After I finished putting new strings on it, I proceeded to play it acoustically, and out of left field got a flashback to the first time I played my grandpa's guitar. What a cool feeling. This instrument will definitely be one that makes it to my family will for sure. My son has already voiced non-interest in playing guitar, but I know he'll come around. Oh, and in other news, I've already expressed my thoughts to Sam, but please thank Tony for me. Without his involvement in the show, I would not now have a flesh-colored pedal on my board, which I absolutely love. So he picked up the Tony Baloney pedal. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Anyways, what a great story. I know lots of you probably have great stories. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to share them.
Yeah. Why not?
So, and the pictures that he sent, it is a gorgeous guitar. I will, here, take a look. I'm holding it up to the microphone. Okay. With that, we are going to check out what's going on in our music worlds this week. Just a couple of minutes about things that are gear or not gear related, music related. Tony, why don't you go ahead and Polish Tony, you go ahead.
Yeah.
And then Italian Tony, we'll talk to him.
Okay. So this I thought I might have been hallucinating or something. So I was flipping through channels and stumbled onto ESPN 20 or whatever number it was. And guess what was showing?
Sports?
Wrong. It was the 2024 U.S. National Air Guitar Finals.
What?
Yes.
Oh.
You're kidding me.
I honestly thought I was watching like some comedy spoof or something like that. It was so horrible.
I can only imagine.
And I mean, I don't know how the commentators, it was.
That sounds like the breakdancing thing at the Olympics.
I mean, it was almost like the commentators in Best in Show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like I don't know how they could take themselves seriously talking about these people.
Yeah.
Playing air guitar in front of a live audience. It was horrible. And I mean, I know it doesn't directly relate to what we're doing, but it's kind of a spoof on what we love.
Yeah.
And it was really bad. And I can't believe it actually made it onto ESPN.
They must have been really hurting at that point.
Well, it was 11 o'clock at night, so maybe that was just.
I mean, when they recorded it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's and as I dug into it a little bit, guess where the Nationals were held?
Here?
They were held in the Beachland Ballroom up in Cleveland.
Oh my goodness. That is small. I mean,
well, there were like, the place was half empty anyhow.
Yeah. Well, no, I see. I was thinking about a dog show, and I was like, they had a dog show in there?
No,
because you said the Best in Show.
Best in Show. Yeah, no.
I'm easily confused.
Yes, you are. So anyhow, if you get a chance, and you really want to,
don't.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. Take my advice. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's good, Tony.
You're welcome,
Tony. Okay, Tony, it's your chance. What's going on in your music world?
Yeah, so I've always been a big fan of Fender offsets. Since like the '90s, when I was really obsessed with like Nirvana back then. So all the the Jaguars and the Jazzmasters. So I've had a Jaguar since like the early '90s, but I've always wanted a Jazzmaster. And like a couple of weeks ago, I was just on Reverb, just surfing around, and I kind of saw the perfect one that I've always kind of seen it in my head, but I've never actually seen it produced. And I just had to pick it up. It's like a 2023 Fender, I think FSR, made in Japan. It's just black. Ooh. And has black inlays on the fretboard, and it's just perfect. It's at the shop right now, getting a humbucker put into the bridge. So I don't have it yet, so I'm waiting to get it back.
Curious. So you put a humbucker. You're putting a humbucker in the bridge,
right? But it still uses the stock shape, and the stock cover. So it looks like a Jazzmaster pickup. But there's a lot of like small companies that make like custom fit humbuckers that fit in there.
Yeah,
sure.
So I got one.
Yeah, our buddy Jared used to do wide range humbuckers in a cover. That's cool.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And you said it was a Fender Japan?
Yeah, made in Japan. It's like the FSR, the special release.
Yeah,
I believe that's what FSR stands for.
Yeah,
and it's kind of it has like a traditional look, but it's just black.
Yeah,
with the white inlays, and it's just gorgeous.
We're looking at one right now, and this one is charcoal frost metallic. Does that sound familiar, or is it flat black?
It's just black. Black with a black pickguard.
And a matching headstock.
And the headstock is just wood.
Oh, I've got this spot on.
You're right on it. You're right on it, Todd.
I nailed it.
So you've played both guitars, both a Jag and a Jazzmaster, right?
Right.
What?
Yeah, I got to play this one before I took it to the shop, so it was. I had a little time with it.
Did you notice anything?
Oh, wait a minute. He's doing the limited edition one, so is
FSR.
Yeah. Well, the other one was the FSR 2.
Yeah.
Now, wait. Does this have like a?
No, that's not it.
Okay, so this is somebody's mess. That's domestic only. Oh, that's a Nimbus. No. I'm going to cut this part out.
Just stop it, Todd.
I'm trying to get where he's at.
So what I was trying to get at is, so how do you normally string your Jaguar? What gauge?
So I play in drop B. So
okay.
I use pretty heavy gauge strings. But I think I know where you're kind of leading to the bridge itself.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. So obviously so the Jaguar has 24-inch scale, which is pretty short scale.
Right, the scale's different.
25 and a half on the Jazzmaster. And what I found works is on that 24-inch scale, whether it's a Mustang or a Jag or anything else that has that short scale, I like to use 12s. I think it's 12 to 52 or something like that. It's almost like an acoustic set, only nickel wound. And because the scale length is so much different or so much shorter than a Jazzmaster, you can go with a pretty heavy gauge string. Secondly, what you were talking about is the break angle and how it holds into the bridge itself. Those 12s help out considerably.
Yeah, I actually play really, really heavy strings.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the
I was going to guess
what do they
light.
call it? They're the Ernie Ball beefy slinky, so they're like 11 to 54, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and I play heavy too, and the strings were just popping off the bridge. So I upgraded the bridge to the. Have you heard of the Mastery bridge?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a smart move.
They just kept popping off, and it couldn't hold the string in place.
Yeah, some people put a Mustang bridge on those.
Right.
There's a company in the UK, State Trem. I think it's State Trem.
That sounds right. Yeah.
That they make a Mustang style bridge, but it has the slots. That
Yeah, I
hold the
looked at
strings
that
in
one. I
place.
don't think they ship to the U.S. though.
They weren't for about a year or so, and they're shipping again to the U.S. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
cool.
I think
Are they now? Everybody's not shipping all out of nowhere. They're all.
Well, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. It's
Maybe let's just touch on that for a second after we get done with the Italian.
Yeah,
tournament.
I do want to talk about that because it affects a lot of people.
Yes. Excellent. Well, good luck with that guitar. That sounds pretty rad.
I love it.
And I did send you one in the window here. So
Let's see.
I believe it's exactly what you're talking about.
But
This one's white.
that one,
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I think I have the. I think I have it bookmarked. Hold on.
Yeah.
Way to go, Todd.
There you go. There you go. That's it.
Okay. Black. Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. I'm picking up what you're laying down. In my music world.
Oh,
this
Todd,
week-
what about you?
Well, thanks, Tony. In my music world this week, I spent most of the weekend. I got my daughters home from college and everything, and just tried to take as much time at home as possible. And in doing so, I like to cook. I cooked a whole bunch of stuff and checked out some books and junk and listened to a bunch of Joel Patterson.
Ah,
I really like Mr. Joel Patterson. He does a banging job on the guitar. We've given several of his albums away, actually.
yeah, it's the Christmas albums.
That's right. His Christmas albums are just on another level altogether. He's got 2 out. The first one is called Hi-Fi Christmas Guitar, and it's all there's no words. It's all guitar, and it's great stuff. He plays, like 50s, 60s kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Think a hipper Chet Atkins. Like if Chet Atkins was like, late 50s, early 60s, a young man but now. The second one is called The More the Merrier. And that is more Christmas songs. Both of those are absolutely must-haves if you are into vinyl and you like guitar because you're listening to the show. You must.
I agree. Both of those are good.
Yeah. He also has a whole bunch of other albums that you can get into, but specifically this time of year, I can't wait. And actually, I listen to those throughout the year because they're that good. So that's what I was doing, and I was loving it. And both of those are on colored vinyl. One's red and one's green. It's just can't get cooler.
Yep.
Can't get cooler.
Yep.
And that guy, he plays. Actually, Tony, I sent you a message. I would love to go up to the Green Mill in Chicago and catch one of his live sets because, man, he's just absolutely fantastic.
I saw him at the Deke Dickerson's Guitar Geek Fest.
Oh.
About 10 years ago.
Oh.
As part of NAMM.
Yeah.
And he's just tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, it's borderline unmatched. In that thing.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So go check out one of those. You can get them on Amazon. They ship right away. I got it in a day or two.
Do you have color vinyl?
I do. I got red and green.
Nice.
Anyways, let's get on with this.
Well, wait.
Oh, yes. Let's get on with that.
Let's touch on something.
Tony, what's going on in the world of Europe?
Well, I don't have a very clear picture, but what I understand... No, I mean...
This is a great start to this segment.
I'm going to just make this all up.
Yes.
How's that sound?
Let's talk about this thing that I know nothing about.
No, I do know a few things.
Okay.
As probably you noticed on a lot of Instagram feeds from pedal builders, they're saying effective immediately, we are no longer shipping to the EU due to regulations. And so I asked our friend John Esterly if he knew anything about it, and he said, it's a mess. Essentially, what they want to do, if you're a pedal builder, and I think it might affect other industries, it might affect me. I do have some European customers too. They want you to set up essentially a middleman in the EU, a distributor, if you will. And so, one, that's just going to add to the costs, of course.
Right.
And there's all kinds of crazy requirements, like you have to certify that it's lead-free solder, all sorts of compliance things. And what it seems like a lot of these smaller pedal builders, and Tony, you probably, I'm assuming you know about this too. Maybe you can help fill in the holes that
Can you specify who you're talking to?
I'm talking to Italian, Tony.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd be talking to myself.
Hey, this is for the listeners' benefit, not mine.
But
I stand to gain nothing by this.
But a lot of these small pedal builders are saying, until they straighten things out in the EU, we're just not going to ship to you.
Yeah.
Because apparently a lot of things were getting kicked back because they were so-called non-compliant. And most of these, people don't have, they don't sell enough to set up a distributorship in the EU. So I don't know. It sounds like it's just a bureaucratic mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of stopped taking orders from the EU for now until I don't even fully understand it. I contacted the European Commission, and they directed me to an organization in the U.S. to help me out. So I'm just trying to understand what we need to do to comply. There is the thing you're referring to is essentially a responsible person that's within the EU that could, from my understanding, ensure that you're kind of meeting all the regulations.
Yeah.
So I don't even know I wouldn't even know how to begin to kind of set that up.
It's just a mess. And they don't, I mean, I could see if it's like, some giant, giant pedal builders or, anybody that's selling a ton of electronics gear. But, come on.
When did this go into play?
It just must have started because...
The 13th.
When?
The 13th, last week.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So this is fresh. And it's going to put a lot of hurt on people, especially, if you're shipping stuff out and it gets kicked back to you, it's just not good for customer relations. Yeah, the shipping's
$30 to ship without a tracking number. It's $80 to ship with a tracking number. That's crazy.
Shipping's crazy.
I could teach you a little trick afterwards. But.
Oh. Well, anyways. Okay. Well, thanks for that.
So I mean,
semi-informed update.
And maybe if some of our friends in the pedal community can fill in some of the voids too that or what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
Send it over to Todd.
Send it to Canada, and they'll send it to EU.
Well, when you go over to see Oasis, you can take a whole bunch of stuff from pedal builders with you.
I'm not going to do that? I won't get caught in customs at all. What are all these electronics, sir?
Why are you beeping every time you walk through the metal detector?
Anyways, okay. If you happen to be on the other side in the EU and you've got all of these pedals that are now stuck in transit, and you're like, I'm just going to take these home and play them. The best thing you can do to do that is use Tour Gear Design's patch cables to stitch them all together.
Stitch them.
And they actually, who knows? They probably ship over there.
I think they fit.
I think you could get them.
I think they fit European pedals.
And if you are a UK postmaster and you're listening to this, go ahead and put all those the patch cables that you're going to order in the cart. And what you can do is put the guitar knobs in the cart, and you're going to save 15%. It might be different for pounds.
Is that kind of like a coupon code?
It is a coupon code.
Oh.
You're going to save 15% on your order.
15%?
That is correct. From the good people at Tour Gear Designs patch cables. Excellent stuff. I have been procrastinating on putting on in an order because I think I might need a few more than I originally did.
Just buy more.
Plus, I'm waiting to get them from Kirk for Christmas gifts. I mean, I can't think of a better stocking stuffer. I said it right that time. So go to Tour Gear Designs, get yourself those cables, and thank you to Tour Gear for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor. Tony?
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3.
4 on the floor.
All right, Italian Tony from Superlunar. What is your 4 on the floor?
Hey. Yeah, so it always changes. Like if you asked me 5 years ago, it would have been a different set. But right now I'm.
You have a strange definition of always, because 5 years is a long time for one thing to change.
Yeah, I say that because 5 years ago I was making like electronic music, and so I had pedals that, around that kind of stuff. But now I'm trying to write like a rock album myself. So the whole pedal board is kind of around that.
Good.
And for a while I was obsessed with getting that kind of that sound from Siamese Dream.
Oh yeah.
So right now, like the Green Russian Big Muff is a huge part of kind of like that sound. And I like this one because it just, I don't know, to me there's more low into it, and it just sounds fatter and thicker. And it's just, oh man, running a humbucker through it just sounds so good.
It does. It definitely does.
Yeah. So before that, in my chain, I have for like lead tones, I have Land Devices, the HP2.
Oh yeah,
which is kind of like, it's based on the harmonic percolator. Mm-hmm. And I love this pedal. I love everything this company does. They just released a nice little kind of EQ pedal, but
good looking stuff too. It's right along the line of what we were liking.
Yeah, we'll probably get into this a little bit, but this is one of the pedals that kind of inspired me to kind of make a pedal. But yeah, I just love the way this sounds, and I run it into the Big Muff.
Oh,
for like lead sounds, and it just sounds insane. It's just,
that's a new combination.
It kind of sounds like, yeah, just sounds like an explosion.
So, yeah, you're running a percolator into the muff. I don't know why that sounds new to me. I don't know if that, Tony, do you remember coming across that kind of a stack?
I don't believe so.
That's first I've heard of that, and that doesn't mean that it hasn't been around a lot longer. And everybody's like, "How do you not know that?" But that sounds new to me.
We can't know everything.
We cannot.
I mean,
I'm going to try that when I get home, though. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I have the Vaderin percolator, and put that into the Wren and Cuff green. Yes.
Right. But a lot of people go do like a boost pedal into a distortion, right?
Sure.
I've seen that. So this is kind of, it's that idea, but it's just even more insane.
Yeah.
You get kind of 2 layers.
Do you like the sound of the percolator by itself?
Yes.
Okay. So
I love it too. And I always have it on that orange switch on it.
Yeah.
Or whatever color it is. I always have it to the right side. So I think when you do that, it puts the extra diodes into the circuit, like the hard clipping diodes. So it just makes it, I just love the sound of it.
Excellent. What is number 3?
Number 3 is the MXR Micro Chorus. it like in the last year, I've been really into like The Cure, enjoyed the Vision. So, that chorus sound from like the 80s and the late 70s, I just love. And this is, it's a simple pedal. There's one knob. I put it at 12 o'clock and it just sounds so good to me.
The micro chorus, everybody. Go out and get yourself one.
And it's yellow, so
yeah,
there's that.
And it's oddly the one knob kind of thing, which is,
Yeah, which is it's just the rate, so you don't affect the depth. You're just messing with the rate, and it's just nice and simple.
I think that has to probably cause a lot of anxiety for people. Like
I can't control my depth.
Well, if you think about it. If you had like an EP boost, a micro chorus, a phase 90, and what's a one knob or any one knob fuzz? Mm-hmm. That would be an interesting board. I have they're all one knob pedals. Board. That'd be really cool, just to see what happens. Maybe, should we do that, Tony?
It would be easy. I like that idea.
Yeah, we should put one together. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Challenge out there. Show us all of your single knob boards. Okay.
Someone must have done it.
Yeah. I mean,
we might have to call it the guitar knob.
Bzz.
No, just knob.
Yeah.
For that podcast.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Numero 4.
The fourth one's kind of boring, but it has such a huge impact on my sound, my main kind of like crunch sound. It's another MXR pedal. It's the 10 band EQ, and I put it right after the Big Muff, and it has like really kind of drastic settings. Like I almost completely cut like at 500 hertz. And then I boost some of the low end. I boost some, like at 4K. It almost looks like an M. The shape of the settings, and it has this. Without it, I couldn't get like the tone that I hear in my head. So yeah, that's pretty important.
Interesting. So you opt for a one knob chorus and a 10 knob EQ. I see.
Exactly.
I see what you're going for. You, sir, fly in the face of normality.
Nothing makes sense here. The only thing I hate on this thing is the LEDs are like so bright, they just blind you. Like I literally.
That's what you get.
If someone like puts a flashlight into your eyes.
Yeah.
And you just kind of see the light for a little bit. That every time I look at the pedal, I have like 10 LEDs.
It's usually followed by, how many have you had to drink, sir? Not for me, for others.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Straight and Narrow.
Yeah. Anyhow, my kids are listening and stuff. So
right.
That is a very interesting 4 on the floor.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you had our interest peaked the entire time. Curious. Cool. Yes. And I appreciate your musical diversity in your background. We were talking about this, before the show. A lot of crossover betwixt us, and it's cool. I can get it. I get it. All right, onward, and maybe upward a little bit. We're going to talk about you and your pedal offering to the guitar universe. This is the SR01, and you dub it as a distortion kind of fuzz thing.
Actually, it's an analog
saturation what?
Device.
That's right. I knew it was something like that. I was really close. So, what is a saturation device? Are you just being clever, or is there some science behind that?
No, it's just me being clever. I like, my approach with the whole pedal thing was that when I started doing it, I was like, I'm going to try to do something different that, at least try. Try to do something different that you can't really find on the market right now. And it even came down to like naming it. I could have just named it like a distortion pedal or a fuzz pedal, but I wanted to get a little cute with it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no deeper meaning. I mean, it is analog, but other than that, there's no kind of deeper meaning to it.
Yeah. Well, you and I first connected, and we had a quick call that ended up. I mean, honestly, we could have gone on for quite some time talking, I'm sure. You have designed something that, from all the comments we get from posting this, just the unboxing, and other ones that I've seen just on your own social, has been a lot about, man, I love the look of this pedal, which, if you really break it down, I mean, the simplicity is kind of alarming comparative to a lot of pedals out there. In fact, I mean, it doesn't feel very guitarish at all, and that's, I think, part of the beauty of it. We talked a little bit about the design inspiration, and that's how we started to like really kind of unpeel some of our connection. Would you mind sharing where you're coming from a design background?
Yeah. So I've been working close to 30 years as, a graphic designer, user interface designer. And a lot of my influence and inspiration comes from mid-century design, on the graphic design side, but also, on kind of like the hardware and the physical side of things, like furniture and a lot of the stuff that Dieter Rahm did during the '60s for Braun or Brown. Mm-hmm. I've heard it pronounced both ways. So all kind of like, but even kind of like that approach to design where, it's really about subtracting things or editing your design. So right. Kind of questioning every little thing and kind of saying, is this really necessary? Does it need to be there? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the whole approach to it. And like I mentioned before, when I set out to do this, I said to myself, I don't want to make a pedal that looks like all the other pedals. Even aesthetically, like like kind of like, there's a lot of like skeletons and like spiky typography, and that stuff all looks awesome. And I was like, I can't really, if I'm going to do that, I don't think I could do it better than anyone else. So if I'm going to do something, I want to kind of do something a little different that kind of stands out. Mm-hmm. From everything else. And also, I was also thinking about not only the kind of the guitar community, but also, people that play synths, because a lot of that community, they use pedals a lot for kind of, for adding effects. And it's just an easy, simple kind of, it becomes like a little desktop object for them. So I really wanted to target both markets and both people.
Well, you also hit a lot of other people that just really like design stuff. And I noticed also that your actual Superlunar logo is using the Braun font, I believe.
No, it's not.
It's not? It sure looks like
it.
I could be right. Okay, yeah. It looks eerily similar, which is, kind of cool. I get it. But the design itself, like you could see, like I definitely took inspiration from the Braun stuff in terms of like the hardware, is like those little round buttons and stuff like that. Like that was kind of like a direct inspiration from that stuff done in the '60s. Yeah. Well, it looks like when I kind of told you what I thought it was, usually that doesn't hit people. because they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I was pleasantly surprised. You're like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, wait a minute, what? And I think I referenced a annual report, like an annual report from like 68 or 71, something around that era. And you're like, that's exactly what, or at least I remember in my head, you're like, that's totally what I was going for.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic that you didn't do that by accident and that you knew what I was referencing. You have some tactile elements on here that are just an absolute delight, and because you don't see them on a lot of pedals, and everybody who's making something, by and large, is saying, I want to make something, but I think there's a difference between saying I want to make something different, because that's almost an insurmountable task. If you just say it's different than what? Different in what way? Different like how?
Do I amuse you?
Right. But we put so much focus on this show about how people have found a way to put their own fingerprint on something.
Their DNA, if you will.
Well, that's different. Their fingerprint. And I think you've done a great job, because nothing else out there really looks like this at all, which makes you, kind of makes you want it that much more. And most of us at this point, we like to collect the stuff, even if it's not like the main thing we use. There's like, I like this and I want it. I want to have it and add it to my collection and appreciate the builder and the creation behind it.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I mean, yeah, I was basically just trying to make something that I liked, and it's really cool to see that it's resonating with other people.
Yeah, for sure. Now, tell us about some of the sonic inspiration here.
Yeah, so about 14 months ago, I had no idea what a resistor was, what a transistor was, how to make a circuit. It was all kind of like black magic to me. And like I mentioned before, I was like a couple of years ago, I was doing electronica, and I released a few electronic albums.
Really?
Yeah, under the kind of moniker of Faux Black. So it's kind of like down. Have you, Todd? You ever listened to Boards of Canada?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Okay, so kind of like
kind of vibe.
lo-fi.
Yeah, lo-fi is like slow down tempo-y.
Yeah.
A lot of pads and stuff.
I'm gonna check that out on the way home.
Nice. Yeah, so I was into that a couple of years ago, but about 14 months ago, I really got back into. I've been playing guitar since the 90s. I'm not that good, but I've been playing on and off for almost 30 years, and I really started getting back into it a year ago. And this is when I was like, I've always wanted to start a band. That never worked out, so I was like, I at least want to make like a rock album. So I started doing that a year ago, and while I was doing that, I was searching for my tone. And I was looking for like a distortion that was really kind of like almost like spitty or like flabby or just like a weird sound. And I ended up getting a Fender.
Are you talking about Polish Tony right now, or the pedal?
I resemble that remark.
I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like it's a weird distortion sound, but I got a Fender Super Reverb, and like if you crank that, you kind of get this really unique kind of dirt sound. So that was cool, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds great." But then I wanted to run, I wanted to have effects kind of after this distortion sound, and the Super Reverb, there's no effects loop, so. I sort of looked for pedals that were like super reverbs in a box, and there's a couple out there. But then I was like, what if I just make one? What if I just try to make one? And that was kind of like the inspiration for it. And I started learning about circuitry and components and what they do. And I started to mess with the circuit. And at first it wasn't going to be a pedal, for Superlunar. I was just doing it for myself. And then eventually, as months went by, I just kept kind of tweaking the circuit and kept messing with it. And I was like, I've always wanted to do, the end goal was to do some kind of hardware device for Superlunar. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is, maybe this is it. So I kept kind of going deeper into it and tweaking it and, changing components and values and adding switches and stuff like that. And I finally got to a point where I was like, oh, this could be a really unique pedal. And I started thinking about the design of it. And that's when I was like, okay, if this is going to be something that I do, I want it to be different. So, I started to kind of mess around with designs for that. And then I had to learn, I had to teach myself, how to PCB design. I didn't know any of that. Because I first was going to do through hole stuff, and I learned pretty quickly that I'm just not good at soldering, and it's not something that I'm interested in, which is funny. So I basically planned. My goal was have a nice, kind of a PCB with SMD kind of components on it that I would get from the manufacturer. And then from there, I could just kind of build the pedal myself at home, kind of complete the final step of production. So it was just first it started out as something I needed. And then it kind of eventually kind of just grew and morphed into this, into the SR01. And it became a thing. It kept going and going. And I'm kind of glad I did it. It was each step. I really didn't. I think my superpower is I try not to think about everything that's involved in doing something. I just think about the next step. So for me, it was just one kind of step at a time. I was like, okay, I gotta learn about circuitry. Okay, next step is I gotta make a circuit and kind of make it work on my little breadboard, and then design, and then PS. If I looked at the whole thing at the beginning, I don't know if I would have been really intimidated by it. But now I kind of been through it, and it's it turns out that I love it. So I'm gonna.
That's great.
I don't know if I'm a pedal company. I still don't feel like I'm a pedal company, but I'm working on another one, and I have a couple of other ideas. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing these things.
It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, that wasn't the original intent. But yeah, it's cool. I also want to do software, potentially do plugins and stuff like that. Everything, a lot of stuff around audio. To me, that there's this nice kind of intersection of design and audio that really interests me.
I can get behind that, man.
Now, one of the things that I was impressed with, and I think you have a bunch of these videos both on your YouTube channel and on your website, is not only is it for guitars, but for bass, for synthesizers, for little cheapo drum machine kind of things. And it sounds equally as good on all of those instruments. And it's difficult if you're designing a pedal for strictly guitars to have it run that whole spectrum of things.
Yeah, and that's kind of a little bit of why I went with kind of the name of a saturation device. This whole kind of this whole idea that it's a thing that's not just for guitars.
Mm-hmm.
It works great for guitars, but I tried to make something that you could put different types of instruments through, samplers and drum machines, and synths. So yeah, that was kind of the goal, and that's also the same goal with this next device that I'm working on. So it's kind of that's kind of the drive behind all of these things.
So the next device is what genre of pedal would that be?
I don't want to give too much away right now. It's
As much as you can without giving it all away.
What's the inspiration?
It's way more complicated than the first pedal I did. Like it's essentially like 4 kind of effects or 4 kind of sections.
Oh,
yeah, and you could basically you could run stuff through to kind of color it. So it's kind of like almost like a kind of like a coloration device or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so
so you're going with the Asians.
Yes, so it would be the analog coloration device.
Saturation, right? I still don't know if I'm gonna have a stomp switch on it. Yeah.
If you did a delay, you could call it a multiplication device.
There you go.
I like it.
I'm gonna see how long I can milk that kind of naming thing.
Very
Too cool. Now, as you're building this stuff, how much are you, now that you've kind of got your own thing, it's really difficult to kind of follow your own thing and filter out all the other things that you are being bombarded by. Do you struggle with that at all? Like,
what do you mean exactly?
Just visually, sound wise, it's sometimes it can be hard to stay on track with the idea that you have while being influenced in everywhere you're looking. You know what I mean? And so I was just asking, like, as a designer, especially,
right?
Does that affect you at all?
Yeah, I mean it does. Like when I did the SR1, and even with this new one that I'm working on, I always start with like the visual look of it. I had that with the SR1. I had kind of like that early circuit that I was trying to build for myself. But then once I kind of like developed that and said, okay, I'm going to make this pedal, I kind of jumped to like what would this thing look like? Because I'm a very visual person. I had to kind of like see it and kind of lay it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of influenced some of the decisions I made with the circuit as well. But I kind of like jump back and forth, and sometimes I have trouble. Like one day I'll work on the circuit, and then I'll go back and kind of work on the design a little bit. But I try to stay focused on one thing at a time. So I'll do like an initial design to kind of like inspire me and be like, okay, this is kind of where I want to head with, and then I jump to the breadboard, and I try to stick to the circuit and get the circuit really good and where I want it to be, and then from there, once I'm good with that, I'll try to like focus on just the design of it. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Now I have another question for you, which is you have a couple of components on here that are relatively newer or differenter than a lot of things we see on pedals.
Mm-hmm.
How did you actively say, okay, I'm going to find things that I just don't see out there, or did you have difficulty sourcing these things? How'd you come about them? I'm specifically speaking about the LEDs and the push buttons.
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned, my goal was to kind of do something different than what's out there. For example, like the buttons, I could have used just toggle switches that you see on a lot of pedals, but I wanted to kind of, not do that and go with something else. And then, I was really inspired with the interface of it. I'm really inspired with like synths and, a lot of modular gear, and even like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so a lot of the hardware during that time was just really interesting to look at and just cool. so I wanted this thing not to look like a pedal almost, and almost look like some kind of like desktop device that, or like some weird like audio device from the '60s that you don't know what it does. So I, those buttons took me a while to find. I think that took me the longest to source.
It's the first thing that I said. I don't know what this is, but I have to have this.
I knew right away I wanted like round buttons like that. Again, like that's you see a lot of that stuff in kind of like the Braun stuff that Ron's did. So I was like, I want round buttons. So I went out looking for that, and that took a while. The square LEDs were pretty easy to find. Those kind of like those little mini pots with the kind of like the white little mark on it. Mm-hmm. Those are a little bit difficult to find. Those took me a while to find as well. And again, that comes from like,
too.
Yeah. They apparently they make them in different heights. I can't find them. I wanted to do shorter ones, but I had trouble finding the short ones. Those knobs, you see a lot of those on like synths and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And drum machines. So that kind of, that's what inspired that. Like even the big knobs, I wanted to do something different.
Yeah, there's like console style.
Yeah. Those are not too unique, but you don't. At least I haven't seen them.
There's not a lot of people that use that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which again, all those things combined, I was like, it's one thing to go like, hey, this is cool. But the fact that it wasn't just a random thing, this was very intentional in design. And I appreciate that. So I was like, okay, I need to know who made this and get them on the show because I super duper appreciate this. And
thank you, man.
And you turned out to be a really affable chap too, so that's a super bonus from Superlunar.
It's a win-win.
I was trying to tie it all into Superlunar. Where does that name come from, by the way? What's the genesis of that?
I hate naming things. I mean, that's why I named the pedal SR01. I can't name things. It just doesn't. I don't know. I kind of like.
Well, you and I have a lot in common.
Yeah. I stress over it, and I think about it too much.
And Yamaha.
I think I just had a bunch of names that I wrote down that I found interesting, and I find the word super really interesting, and I came across the word Superlunar.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just, it looked nice and it sounded different. So I just went with that. But I think I have like a text file somewhere of a ton of different names. I was trying to make it deeper, like it means something really special, but it was just a name that I liked visually and sonically, I guess.
Yes. Well, and you know what's interesting? I mean, if you think about the juxtaposition of the technical world in the mid-century versus the consumer world, which oddly were not aimed at the same people at all, which now both of those things are, everything's all mashed up. But the consumer world, everything was like, this has to have some great, I mean, think of every car name had to be like bigger, more fantastic than anything you can imagine. Right. And all kinds of other products. But then when you get into the technical world of that and even businesses, it was anything but that. It was completely functional. And so I dig that actual juxtaposition of those two things when they get jammed up, which is in fact a juxtaposition. Anyways.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
You and your $20 words.
I know. I got $40 worth of them. So tell us about like what are some of the experiences you've had with people purchasing this and playing it? Are you getting a lot of like shared soundtracks and audio clips and stuff of people making stuff with your pedal?
I get a few people like posting reels, and then they'll kind of mention Superlunar in their reel. But no one's sent me like audio clips. I think I've been bad to like trying to inspire people like, hey, post something with the pedal, or like use this hashtag.
Yeah.
I haven't been good with that. But yeah, there's a couple of people that have shared some stuff on Instagram, but that's about it.
I'm willing to bet that there's probably. I think that this would be a hard pedal for the Scottish people to pronounce, kind of like purple burglar. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that stuff where they get Scottish people to try to pronounce the word or the phrase purple burglar. I guess it's very difficult for a Scottish person to say. So Superlunar would be maybe in the same purple burglar. Anyways, check it out.
Right.
Look it up. It's great fun. And they have I'm not throwing shade. They have a good time with it too, as far as I know. So anyways,
Nice.
So there, yes, share your Scottish selves pronouncing Superlunar. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's not a thing.
Maybe they'll be able to pronounce it.
Maybe they will, and maybe I'll just look like a dope.
Yeah.
It's possible. Well, dude, it's so cool running into new things. Like, I get so excited because I spend a lot of time looking on the internet, looking for, like, what's this? Is this new? Right?
Oh, you mean pedals?
Pedal, yes. You bozo. And I get so geeked out if I'm like, whoa, what's this? And if it feels relatively new, then it's even that more exciting. And then when we get them on the show, like yourself, it's so great. It's one of my favorite things about what we do. It's great talking to people who are super established and famous and all that stuff, but I love when we are able to stumble upon something that we haven't found yet. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, this is cool. I appreciate being here so much. When I first started doing this, I never imagined in a million years that I'd be on a guitar podcast being interviewed about this stuff. I was like, I'm going to make a pedal. Maybe I'll sell like 20 of them. So the response has been pretty cool.
You're on drop 6.
Drop 6.
So, and each one of them sold out every time.
Yeah, it's small batches, like 30, but
that's
I never even thought I would sell
substantial
30.
drop there,
Yeah.
Pally.
Yeah, I'm surprised. The first run I did 20, if I remember. Because I was like, if I sell 20, this will be insane.
They probably, I imagine they went right away.
Yeah, they went pretty fast.
That's great. That's
So
great, man.
It's really cool.
Confirmation of solid thinking.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely got to keep us hip to what you're doing moving forward, because we really love what you're doing, and we know that when people get their hands on this, they're going to be happy. And we're really looking forward to all the other new things that you're going to be creating and stuff. And I have a feeling that, on a personal level, some of these other things you do and the crossover that we have between music and design, I think, I could definitely see our paths crossing in other ways in the future at some point. So,
yeah, for sure.
Tony is going to take us into the wild and wet world of Would You Rather.
Never land.
No, Would You Rather. That's
Okay, Todd.
Stay here.
I'm staying.
Okay.
At this point of the show is a little game we like to play called Would You Rather?
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Bubby and a sissy. This week's Would You Rather is brought to us once again by our good friend Bruce Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
He titles this one, This Knob's for You. So your good friend Jeremiah at Bullfrog Amps is making you a special amplifier. He likes you. He says, I want you to have a very special amplifier. Best of all, he's gonna send it to you, and you're gonna love it. It's a 2-channel, low-powered, master volume lunchbox style amplifier. Okay, you get the picture?
I got it.
2 channels, master volume. Due to the limited space, there is no effects loop, no reverb, no tremolo, none of that stuff. But he is giving you 2 options on the control layout. And this is where the would you rather comes into play. Would you rather have 2 gain and 2 tone controls? Or would you rather have 2 gain controls and a shared treble, mid-range, and bass control?
Okay.
Shared. Ooh.
So your choices are, obviously you're going to have a gain for each channel, and you can have a master volume for each channel, or you can have a 3-band EQ, essentially. You see.
Okay.
Would you rather?
Would you rather? All right. You didn't. Oh, this didn't have the same setup.
No,
I
this
was
is
a little
different.
bit lost there because this isn't part of that series.
No,
This
it
is
is
a new
not
one.
part of the
Okay.
series.
Gotcha.
We jumped ahead.
Yes. All right. Tony, why don't you go ahead and give us your thinking, then we'll check in with Italian Tony.
Well, I do like simplicity. My favorite amp is a Dr. Z.
1 letter. That's all you got to remember.
Just 1 letter with a Z. And it's a Maserati, so it's got a
A Z
volume,
in it, so it sounds safe.
and it's got a tone control.
Right.
2 of them.
Right.
And it's loud, and it sounds great. But I think in the case
That's
of...
the one you're willing to me?
okay, I'll put it in my will. Jeez. You can have it for $100. I think with some of these smaller kinds of amplifiers, you probably want some flexibility in terms of tonality. So I think I'm going to go with the 3-band EQ just in case I need to scoop out or pump up some of those mids. So that's my choice.
Okay.
Gain, and treble, mid-range, and bass.
Okay.
That's what I'm going for. Thanks, Jeremiah.
2 gain, 2 control, or 2 gain controls and a shared treble mid-range. 2 gain, 2 controls. Interesting. That's trying to figure out the benefits of both right now. But Italian Tony, go ahead.
The option with the 3-band EQ for sure. I like to. I know a lot of guitarists don't do this, but I love to pump the low end, the bass. I love to bring it up, especially when, like, if I'm going to use this amp to just crank it up and drive it really hard.
Yeah.
I just love the sound of when bass gets distorted. And I'll just roll off a little bit of the high end. And obviously the mids I would probably drop. But yeah, the EQ would be big for me.
All right.
The first one actually kind of sounds like the Supro that I just got rid of.
Okay.
Not got rid of, like, yeah, get out of here, but that I traded because that had 2 gains and it had I think it just had a tone. I think a tone for each. I'm pretty sure it just had a tone for each.
Maybe.
Yeah. It was so long ago the other week. But I, too, would rather have that 3-band EQ.
Just have a little flexibility, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and, mid-range is super important, which I remember when we had our friend Dave, who had passed away, the amp builder from early on. We asked him because he only had a bass and treble, and we're like, "Where's the mid?" And he's like, "The mids are in there, are in how you set up the bass and treble." And I was like, I mean, you build amps. I'm taking your word for it, but that sounds not entirely true. But I, whatever. That was his thinking.
Well, the thing with the tone, just the master tone control.
Yeah.
It's like on your guitar. all you're doing is really rolling off
The treble.
the high end based on whatever cap happens to be in there.
Yeah.
So it's not as flexible, if you will.
Yes.
It might work really well in a simplified circuit like that.
Yeah.
The less wiring, the better in my book.
Well, it's an interesting conundrum because let's say I did do the 2 gains and did the 2 gain control or the 2 tone controls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just even having a single tone knob on the amp. Now I know amp purists are going to just put your rocks down. Just hypothetical situation. There is so much you control in the actual tone going into the amp with, like, if you've got a bunch of different pedals, because almost every single pedal has more than a tone knob on it, especially now. And I mean, I was just futzing around with this night before last, where I was trying to get treble without pushing the treble on the amp because it was feeling a little overly bright, but I still needed some of the bright, and I was managing the balance between what was going into the amp and what the amp was doing. Mm-hmm. And that, that's a dance in and of itself. So yeah, well, maybe less knobs is bester.
All right, so you can have a gain, and a master tone.
I want 3 gain knobs.
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a good one, Bruce, as
Thanks,
usual.
Bruce.
And we need to thank a few people.
Oh, yes, Todd, because at this point of the show is a special group of people we love to thank. These are our executive producers. Now, an executive producer makes this show possible. How do you become one? Head over to patreon.com.
You beg. Oh, no. That's not.
No. It's even easier than that.
It is.
You head over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs and check out a couple different levels in which you can participate, become a friend, a sponsor, a hero of the podcast, if you will.
Indeed.
Each level comes with some very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to win great, great stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's one thing more. In addition to all that great stuff, what would that be?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Whoa, I actually understood that this time.
I don't know what the problem has been up to this point. I've been saying it the same way every time.
I did get a lot of wax out of my ears this past week. So, anyhow, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to thank some people by reading their name on the thing.
Do it.
So special thanks to these executive producers. John Sebastian, Trevor Ellenberg, Cameron Pampas, James Bell, Brett Hogarth, Don Kloss, Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology, Rusty Sneeden, Vader and Pedals, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Richard Kendall, James White, Justin Jones, John Esterly from Rare Effects, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Darren Gregory, Tom Barazin, Eric Marrow, Plutone, and Michael Davenport.
Yes, Michael Davenport.
Making up for lost time?
Yes, that's what we're doing.
But wait, Todd, there's more because there's a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. Now, these are the creme de la creme, the top of the heap, the number ones. And they wear a fez upon their head whilst listening to the podcast.
Yes,
as
and
I'm
hopefully
told.
Other things. Not on their head.
No.
Oh,
no, that's it.
Okay, well, that's a different.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Anthony Gemalero, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Bob Crouch, Brian Robison, Cody Foster, David Kaminga, David Tyndall, Enrico Fernando, Fox Hill Studios, Hex Matos. That was kind of a downer. Hex Matos!
There you go.
That's better. James.
Gotta say it like a boxing announcer.
That's right. James Pennington, John Williams, LSJ Music Company, Matt Hart, Michael Van Zant, Michio Murakishi, Moon Guitars, Paul Von Eppinger, Sam Jett, Steve Keys, Tyler K.C. Rhines, Zach Oswald from Brandon Wham Pickups, Pedro Vasquez, Gregory Randall, and Mike Nazionale.
That is correct. Hey, I just also want to say a nice shout out to Mr. Pedro Vasquez, who has been waiting patiently for some things to get out to him. And there's a box sitting right in front of the door so I can take it to work tomorrow and ship it. Yes.
You're a shipping fool.
Puerto Rico. Yes. Yeah, we've got to rep all the guitar folks out there. So thank you for your patience and your support, Pedro, and that's on its way out to you. Truly, thank you all. We so appreciate it, and thank you for the continued support. Mr. Italy.
Hey.
Why don't you tell us where people can find the things that you do?
So my website, superlunar.com, spelled without the E and the A. I'm also on Instagram, same handle. Threads, Blue Sky. I post a lot on Instagram, so
yeah,
if you wanna,
that's
you
where
see,
by and large the guitar
videos.
community is. Yes,
Yeah.
Guitarstagram. Okay, cool. Tanya, how about yourself?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the things that I do. What do? I make custom pick guards for guitars. How do you get one? Shoot me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do. I have some good ideas. Believe it or not, I've been doing this long enough. So if you have a question or something like that, maybe you need a suggestion, just shoot me an email. I'll take very good care of you.
Excellent.
It's your opportunity to make your guitar even more yours.
That is something that somebody came up with. That's awesome.
Oh, Todd.
And you can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. We'd love to hear your story. You got a great guitar story? Share it with us. Shoot me an email, Todd@theguitarknobs.com.
Tell us about your four on the floors.
Yes,
Tell us
all those things.
Give us some ideas for Would You Rathers.
Yeah, and then what are you hoping to get from Christmas? What happened to that person you fell in love with in high school? How did you guys? No, I don't know. Anyways, we're glad that you're out there. We're glad that you're listening, and I think that's about it. Italian Tony, we want to thank you so much for being on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure. We like you.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine, man. Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Great.
And when the next device comes out, please let us know.
Yeah,
and then
for
we'll,
sure.
we'll give you a little plug too.
I'll send you guys one.
Even better.
Dig it. All right, everybody, have a fantastic guitar weekend. Subscribe.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask one question, and this will determine whether or not you are truly Italian.
This better not be embarrassingly low-hanging fruit.
No, it is not. What do you do on Christmas Eve?
We essentially have 7 fish of the sea.
Yes! You're in. Now,
Okay,
I'll go one step.
This is coming from a Polish guy, okay?
Yeah, but I grew up in Youngstown, so it's all Italian anyhow.
Yeah.
I was the token Polak.
Yeah. Dang it. I got all messed up with the I lost my place. Where's my place? Hang on. No, Pedro. I didn't know that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking. He's
the
old,
thing
whatever.
that they do with the Virgin Mary statue is when they would take the
You're telling the Italian what they do with the Virgin Mary
I'm
statue?
saying what they do.
The last thing before we start the podcast that I'm going to ask of you, okay? Are you familiar with Toast of London?
So when they would take clawfoot tubs out of the bathroom, they would they'd bury it halfway and create like a shrine around the statue of Mary. You paint
That's a good idea.
Oh, wow.
You paint the inside blue. Now these are big. We're talking 3-foot statues.
I know
4-foot
how
statues.
big a tub is.
No, Mary's.
Well, yes, it has to fit in the tub. Here's the $1 million question.
Go ahead.
You have a fountain. Is it on the inside or the outside of the house? Well, that's about as interesting as the show's going to get, man. So,
All right, great show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, so if you're ever thinking of moving, you can just move to Columbus. We can just all hang out. It'd be way more fun.
Because I had a very good friend whose family, they would celebrate, obviously, Christmas Eve, and I was the only one that would eat all 7 of the fishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also probably the only one that never gets invited back to those places anymore.
'Cause- All right, I'll watch this for sure. It's on the list.
I promise you will, like when you're watching after you're done crying, just do it like a little like baseball, touch the necklace, kiss to the sky, say thank you, Todd.
Right. Thanks, Todd.
But I'm willing to learn.
That would be funny, though.
Yes, funny is a word.
That's one way to
Yes.
describe it.
Yeah.
I thought it had something to do with football.
Oh man. Yeah, pew pew. Anyways, wouldn't that be terrible if it just went pew 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 pew? That would be so not fearsome at all. All right.
I'm mad at you, Todd.
And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.